Welcome back. Man has become an urban legend as of late, killing, maiming and slaughtering indiscriminately his way to the king of the killers, after killing an immense 429 thugs in his first two outings combined. But we have to ask one question: where did it all begin? Well, that's what we're here to see today, so join me as we head down memory lane and see what made man into the man who jonkles and jonkler into the jonkler who mans. It's worth watching the previous two entries into the series just to get caught up on the lore and the general rule set, but if you want to be canonically correct and watch this one first, there's no harm in that. So let's get into some rules. The first rule is that every time an enemy can be killed, they must be killed. The second rule, eliminations will be counted on a play-by-play basis. The game never tells you if someone's been killed, so if an enemy falls, is thrown or dragged over a high ledge, is ran over or hit by a brute and is quote-unquote knocked out, electrocuted, left dangling over a ledge in the open world, glide boosted into at high speed, taken out via shot gloves, or otherwise taken out of an encounter by means that could feasibly kill someone, it counts. And if you disagree with this criteria, it doesn't matter. This is not the type of video you want to be taking seriously. And the third rule is subscribe. We need to hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year, or Batman will kill me, jumpstart my heart, and kill me again. Man begins his origins by being told that Blackgate Prison is being overrun by victims who escaped his killer grasp over the course of the last 2 years. They're escaping from their government-mandated cell due to overpopulation, and so Man goes in to make sure the prison doesn't become too overstimulated. We land and are given our first full kill really early on, earlier than any other game in the Manham serial killer series. The game gives us this victim who stood slightly too close to this wall, and well, we all know what happens here. Before this though, we actually meet Chiller Croc for the first time, which is a monumental moment in the career of the soon-to-be man who jonkles. What you'll notice is that this game is easily the best for this series. Perhaps not in numbers, I obviously don't know that yet, but in terms of the fact it actively encourages you to take lives, even early on, so this will be a pretty fun experience. We follow Chiller Croc up to the roof for a meet and greet, but he's obviously not getting paid enough for this because he's not happy we're here. For some reason, some enemies just die, but I will not be counting them since they just seem to die off screen with no real explanation. But we definitely get one kill here as we blow this guy up, and 3 more guys come in and just, well, die. Probably overwhelmed by the aura radiating from Man and Chiller Croc. We have to take down Croc, and he tells us something about some guys who want to kill us, but this conversation is ended when a young Jimmy G tries to take us in, but we jump onto the man plane and head home. We get home and see Fred before we plug in a dodgy SD card we found in the prison, which tells us that 8 assassins are coming to kill us. The Big Chiller, Dick Stroke, Garfield, Silent Snake, White Shot, the Lestecutioner, She, and finally Bone. All of these sent after us by Crack Mask, who wants us dead, because even this early on into Man's killer career, he's jealous of our numbers, but I'm going to break it down for you here, Mark. We will not be fighting White Shot or She here, because they're merely side quests in Man's life and do not affect the main story. After finding this information out, we head back into the world to go and find Penguin, because he knows where Crack Mask is, and we need to find him and ask him not to kill us. On our way into Gotham, we have to drop by this GCR tower because it's blocking our access to the Arkham subreddit, so we drop in and claim 2 perpetrators of this serious crime, as we leave one to dangle from a gargoyle before dropping him on his neck, and throw the other one over this ledge. We leave and head to find Penguin's secret trap phone, which has his address on it. Here we claim some new victims, 3 to be exact. We barrel into them at Mach 10, breaking every bone in their body and throwing their limp corpses into the floor. We find that Penguin is hiding out on the Final Offer, a rundown ship moored in Gotham's docks. We head over there and again are greeted with more victims. We pull the first over this ledge where he dangles for an undisclosed amount of time, and then we become the man missile again and kill this sniper, who obviously was in our way and did deserve to die, before taking out the remaining 7 thugs with the trusty Manclaw, the handiest weapon in our arsenal due to its range and omnipotent abilities. We get into the ship and meet 2 British roadmen who we make pretty short work of, and then are faced with 2 combat encounters which we cannot claim any kills in due to those godforsaken invisible barriers. But after making our way through the ship, we're introduced to the most generic British woman of all time, and discover the first assassin, the Lestecutioner. And since we're a younger, less honed man, we just boot him in the jaw. A very well deserved victory for man. Continuing through the ship to find Penguin, we find 3 enemies who, after some deliberating, I decided could be claimed as kills as we use the remote batarang to carry an electrical current through their body, stopping their hearts and ending their lives. There aren't any more kills for a very long time, but we do arrest generic British woman and find ourselves face to face with a brute. The brute can be manipulated to grab us a few kills, and so we get to add 3 to our count. But it's worth noting that these are the least controllable of our big buddies in this series. With the Titans we could directly control them once we rode them. The Abramovici twins allowed us pure manipulation, as we could control exactly when they swung their weapons and for the most part had complete control over them. But these brutes are the exact opposite. We really have to work for these kills, but we do just that and get all 3, as we eventually find ourselves in a stealth encounter. 6 enemies stand between us and Penguin, and so we begin taking them down. 3 eliminations come from the back claw right from the jump, before we have to do some quick enemy manipulation and get the next kill by way of delayed inverted takedown. We get the penultimate kill with the exact same method on the exact same gargoyle, before going back for round 3 and being ignored by the last thug, who we eventually manage to get with the man claw, bringing this room to an end. We finally get to talk to Penguin, who tells us he thinks Crack Mask was killed earlier tonight, but that obviously can't be possible because we saw him about 4 minutes ago. And as we kindly carry on asking questions, Penguin is saved by the next assassin, Dickstroke. Dickstroke is a tough fight for the uninitiated and untested man, but after a true battle of wills and killer instinct, we trade strokes, hit each other's spots, and eventually bring each other to our climactic ending as we eventually give Dickstroke his final blow. After our encounter with Dickstroke, we pick up our new favourite weapon of mass murder, the remote backclaw. This beastly weapon will eventually allow us to string victims above the ground, allowing for free takedowns, but in the meantime it comes in handy because we can strap enemies to explosive barrels and kill them that way. This thing just unlocks so many new ways of killing for us, so this is a very important moment for Man and his followers. We have to head to Crack Mask's hidden pad, where he was apparently murdered. We know this isn't the case because we are very intelligent, but nonetheless it's worth a look. We leave the Penguin's dumping ground and leave him to do his threesome or whatever the hell he's going to do, and head back out into the city. On our way out, a terrorist threatens us, but who cares, and eventually we make it to the murder scene and add 2 more kills to our count, in what I can only describe as the most unnecessary set of murders we've made so far. Like, he just dangles these 2 city cops over this ledge, where they'd presumably be left for hours. Man could have just drop them onto the floor below, but no, he's a killer at heart, and so he decides to murder them. When we get into the apartment, we find out that Crack Mask, who died here, was in fact a stand-in, and the killer is none other than the Jonkler. This is where we first get a hint at the Jonkler, but we don't meet him yet. To find out what happened in its entirety though, we have to break into the GCPD and get access to the National Criminal Database, and to do that we need a new gadget, the concussion detonator. Man heads home, says hi to Fred, and grabs the concussion detonator, the most useless gadget of all time. We head over to the GCPD and instantly claim some new victims. Our first 3 come by way of ledge takedown, but the rest of this section is a little bit tricky. There aren't many options when it comes to kill spots, however we're seasoned by this point and use the advantage of the open world to take down enemies by using the glide boost attack, which made me realise we could just use that to clear the rest of the cops here, and so we do just that. We don't get any kills for a good while as we make our way through the GCPD, but we do get a pretty funny moment as I got over the top of Brandon's squad as per usual, and then had an absolute brain fart and used a knockout smash on this cop here, which meant despite trying to avoid this fight at all costs, we had to fight them anyway, and after using all the tools in our arsenal, we managed to clear Brandon's squad out, which is something I haven't attempted in years, so I was pretty happy with this. It's useless in the grand scheme of things, but it was a surprise to have to fight an impromptu fight against half the GCPD, so I thought I'd throw it in here. Anyway, we continued through the GCPD and found ourselves in the bullpen with 8 armed guards, and after letting our anger out on Brandon's squad, we were able to approach this room slowly and calmly, grabbing our first kill with a delayed inverted takedown. We repeat our success on the other side of the room before grabbing our 3rd kill with the trusty Manclaw, and the 4th and 5th kill with another pair of inverted takedowns, leaving 3 victims to claim. We kill the next cop with the remote claw's ability to attach explosive propane tanks to enemies, and get the final 2 kills with the Manclaw and remote claw, respectively. After this, we didn't get another kill for like 20 minutes, and I began shaking from withdrawals while we went to fetch this gun from the evidence locker. We had to grab this because when we got to the National Criminal Database, we couldn't get through the door. Unfortunately though, it doesn't shoot bullets, rather it disrupts weapons and jammers, which makes us slightly happier than when we collected the concussion detonator. We head back through the GCPD and find ourselves in the middle of a riot, and by using a well-placed quickfire batarang we were able to pick up an easy kill before claiming another with the remote claw. We get to the National Criminal Database, but technical problems hamper our efforts of finding out what went down at the fake Crack Mask's murder scene. Jimmy G's hyper-intelligent Discord mod daughter, Barbara, tells us that we need to do some rewiring to remotely upload the database to our battle station back in the man cave, so that's our next objective. On the way out of the GCPD, we grab another kill using the remote claw just to put a nice stamp on our time in the home of Gotham's most corrupt. We finally reach the door to freedom, but end up knocking Jimmy G out, giving him more reason to hate us. But all in all, this was a pretty good time. We will remember you, GCPD. We head underground and eventually get our next kill as we pull this unaware bum over the edge and leave him to hang. Our next kills come just before we upload the database to the man computer. I counted 3 kills here because, and I'm gonna be really honest with you here, I spent 10 minutes trying to get this dumb lump of lard to hit the final guy and kill him, and he just wouldn't. Like, he just refused to hit this last guy, so I knocked his ass out myself. This got very jarring, and a younger, angrier, less dedicated man just couldn't hang about any longer. We find out our new friend, Jonkler, is at the bank with Crack Mask making a withdrawal from his savings, so we want to go over there and introduce ourselves. It's here we get 2 kills. Our first kills while in a cutscene for the interested among you, and we meet Crack Mask and Roman Sionis. But wait, they're the same person, so who's behind them? Oh my god, it's Jonkler! Jonkler stole Mask's operations, and is now our main rival for Killer of the Year. He tries to blow us up, but we survive, and this woman finds the situation way too funny. Jonkler sends 7 armed men after us, thinking that's enough. Obviously, this is our first time meeting, so it's understandable he doesn't know our powers yet, but we do take the first guy out with a delayed inverted takedown, and the remaining 6 with some rapid-fire man claws over this ledge. My game did decide it wasn't going to let me interrogate the last guy the first time, so I had to play through this encounter again, but we only counted the first kills because I did consider counting the second batch of kills over the first, but the first were just much more clean, so I went with them. We find out we need to go to the steel mill because Jonkler is going to try and add Sionis to his personal kill count, so we have to get there before he does that. We get to the steel mill and add 7 names to the count as we eliminate the guarding thugs outside the mill's front door. I don't know if this is true, but I think this has to take the steel mill to the top of the pile as the most reoccurring place we've got the most kills at in the series. I mean, if you count its inclusions in Arkham City and this game, we've got to be around 20 at this point, which is pretty cool. I mean, someone needs to fact check that, but it's pretty cool. Anyway, we got our first kill with the claw, the second with the ledge takedown, and the last 5 again with the claw in some of the more definitive kills in the series so far. Man gets into the steel mill, adds these 2 to the count, and eventually finds another brute to play with. The brute gets us another 10 kills, which is massive for our count. We get these by using the seemingly useless concussion detonator to stun him a few times, and aggro him enough to swing wildly, and he eventually starts sprinting at us. This was a big surprise when it came to the numbers, because I just didn't remember this section even existing. Never mind having this many enemies to take down through the brute, it was a truly wonderful time. We head through the steel mill and get our next big stealth encounter, where over the course of this room, we managed to add 8 new bodies to the count, using the inverted takedown, remote claw, and man claw. And as per is normal for this series, the claw does the heavy lifting, grabbing us the largest majority of kills in the room. One of the guys even ended up in the packaging line, which was incredibly funny to me when I was recording this. On our way into meeting Sionis properly, we grabbed the best upgrade so far, the heavy real ammo for the remote claw. This upgrade allows us to string enemies up from afar, giving us what is essentially 3 inverted takedown kills, without us even having to be on the gargoyle. We meet Sionis and are about to kill him, but he's saved by the next assassin, Silent Snake. Snake poisons us, which isn't good because without man there are no kills, and that isn't a world I want to live in. So we get the cure pretty easily and kindly ask Silent Snake why she became invisible. She tells us all of Jonkler's assassins are meeting at the Gotham Royal Hotel for a quarterly meeting where words like bandwidth, low-hanging fruit, and circle back around will be used. And so that's our next stop, because as a YouTuber, we hate corporate jargon and having a real job. On our way out, we lock Silent Snake in a container to die from starvation, and grab another kill with the remote claw on the way out. We fly across the city, surveying our potential prey, and we get hacked by the Charles Cardy YouTube channel, who isn't here to plug a sponsor. Although if there's anyone out there who wants to work with me, hit me up, the email is in the channel bio.
I've hacked Man's communications to tell you to subscribe because big numbers make me happy. Thank you for listening to my propaganda.
After that quick intermission, Man makes it to the Gotham Royal, where he finds that Jonkler has paid the GCPD to protect him and his assassins, and so Batman fights them on his way in because he hates cops, and we make it to the back door. We don't get any kills until we've made it into the lobby, but once we're in, there's 8 victims to add to the chart, and Man is able to use his new toy to its fullest potential, grabbing 2 kills with the heavy real ammo pretty instantaneously, before adding the 3rd, 4th and 5th victims to the tally by using more personal inverted takedowns. The final 3 victims come by way of Manclaw. We check the security cameras and find Jonkler's corporate jargon-filled meetings happening in the penthouse suite, because of course it's happening in the penthouse suite. We get a bit of an insight into the room, which is clearly filled with boredom, because Lexecutioner is doom-scrolling, and Jonkler gets offended by his lack of interest, so he kicks him out of the building, killing him. But from the dirt of death grows a flower of life, as we're given a new lease of it, being gifted the shock gloves, our newest best friend. These gloves will allow us to get so many extra kills. The rules state that if an enemy is finished off while the gloves are active, it counts as a kill, so that's what we're going with. We need to go see Jonkler and ask him for the PowerPoint he showed in the first meeting since we missed it, and in our first encounter with the gloves, we rack up 3 kills, which isn't bad. Man carries up to the hotel's elevator shaft and is given a kill by the gods above as he carries on through the hotel. There aren't any kills here for a while, but one more comes when this ninja tries to fly at Man, and he catches him in midair with a straight jab to the stomach while the gloves are active, which again, when I was recording this, I absolutely howled at. Like, this guy gets decimated. He kills someone else in the elevator shaft as we eventually make it into the Jonkler's funhouse. Man is able to flex his new gifts twice here, the first coming when this small group of enemies dare oppose our reign of terror, and Man adds 2 of them to the count. The second example of our humble flex come when this slightly bigger group of enemies gets in our way, and the biggest of the thugs falls first while the gloves are active, before he manages to add 3 more victims to the count. Jonkler congratulates us on our resounding success as we leave his funhouse, and we get to increase the count when we get to the bar. Here, Man is able to use the gloves to kill another 4 fools who got in his way at the wrong time, which we don't sniff at. As we get closer to Jonkler, his men begin duplicating, giving us 7 new victims here to take down. We do that and add all 7 of them to the counter in a wonderfully brutal display, before some of Bone's men, aptly named the Boners, come to try and break up the party, which was most disappointing, but what did lift our spirits was the 3 extra kills they brought with them. We could have had more, but the gloves ran out of charge when we were beating the first guy down, and that was just a whole thing. But we then enter the swimming baths and are faced with 8 armed Boners. 3 Boners are taken down with the remote claw, which leaves us with 5. 3 of them are taken out using the Manclaw, which works quite nicely, but in what I can only describe as a complete fuck up on my end, I took down one guy using a silent takedown knockout smash, which I only realised I did when editing this video, so to make up for that I took the last guy out with a remote claw by attaching him to an explosive barrel. I can't believe I fucked up that badly, and so as punishment, Bone grabs Man and throws him around a bit. We meet Jonkler, but he won't give us the PowerPoint, and Bone begins killing us for asking about it, which I think is a slight overreaction, but alas, we end up on the top of the Gotham Royal with a Titan-enhanced thug running at us, a true full-circle moment. Fred tells us we should call the cops to help us deal with Bone, but Man tells him that after we concussed, killed, or otherwise put out of action over 3/4 of the GCPD, it's probably not the best idea to try and ask them for help. Bone begins using the prone Bone move on us, named because when he uses it, we end up on the floor. But we managed to get 3 kills here in the initial phase of the fight on the roof. 2 by way of glove and 1 by way of Bone. In the second part, I think we got a kill with Bone, but I can't be sure. I'm going to count it because he gets knocked down and then ran over again, so I think he's dead. Oh my god, it's so warm in the UK. It's so warm. I'm dying. I'm doing this voiceover. I'm dying. I can't have my fan on. God, the things I do for YouTube, man. This is horrible. This is actually horrible. Bone gets really angry that we aren't taking our boning lying down, and this anger annoys the GCPD so much they show up and begin trying to kill Man, Bone, and Jonkler. Bones' men save him from certain death at the hands of Man. Jonker nearly dies, but we manage to save him. But once again, the GCPD show up and ruin the fun, as they take Jonker to Blackgate, and we escape in the Man plane. What awaits us is a whole lot of backstory, which we don't care about because we only look forwards. Forwards to our next kill, and I won't be counting the Jonker's kills here because he isn't Man. Back in the man cave, Man hears one of Bones' men has died in the GCPD morgue, so he grabs a new gadget, the globular projectile for non-lethal restraint, and he begins heading out. But as Man walks up to the Man wing, Fred stops him and begins telling him he isn't the killer he thinks he is. He's weak, he doesn't have it in him to rid Gotham of its worst criminals. But Man calmly takes this feedback on board, and much like me responding to someone's comments telling me my videos are quote-unquote self-indulgent, he tells Fred to fuck off, and he heads out into the city to find Bones' dead boner. Once Man makes it back into the GCPD and into the morgue, he finds the boner dead and discovers he took too many blue pills, became dumb, became big, and became dead. While Man does some loose detective work into what killed this poor boner, he hears Bones' gamer rage coming from the other side of the city, and so he gets in the Man wing and heads over to Bones' gamer hideout, where he grabs 2 kills on the way in. On our way into the Boner bunker, we kill 3 thugs here, and another 4 here, before finally making it to the Bone bedroom, where Man discovers that Bone has found out his real identity. The man behind the man, Bruce Man. Man, furious at this, blows the Bone bunker up, and tells Fred he needs to get in the man cave or he'll get boned to death. On our way back to the man cave, we hear that Garfield is burning down the giant obstructive bridge connecting the shitty side and the nice side of Gotham. Personally, I have no issue with this because I hate this bridge, but Man, in his infinite wisdom, knows that there will be plenty of kills to grab here, so we head over there purely to grab some extra kills. When we land, we manage to kill 4 of Gotham's finest on the way in. We eventually, after way too long, get some more kills in this stealth section. The first 3 come by way of remote claw, stringing these victims up before adding more victims to the count with the trusty man claw, 4 to be exact, with the last guy surrendering like a bitch. We listen for his plea for mercy and allow him to live. A moment of weakness for Man, but again you have to remember he's a lot younger here. We then head over the bridge a little bit and find 4 new victims, which is nice, but what's nicest is the fact we get to knock Brandon's head off. In this room we grab 4 more kills, 3 with the back claw and 1 with the remote claw, and an explosive barrel before we head on to the other side of the bridge and string these poor fuckers up with the remote claw. Sorry if I rushed through those 2 parts of it, but I'm so excited for this next part, because like we did in the asylum, like we did in the city, we finally get to use an electric fence to take out a bunch of enemies. We engage the thugs and get 7 kills using the fence, before taking the last 4 guys out with the gloves, in a moment in time which nearly brought tears to my blackened heart. Seriously, I was very excited for this moment, because it brought me back to simpler times, when this madness all began in the walls of the Asylum. It was truly wonderful. We start to head over to the other side of the bridge and meet 5 more victims. Victims who we dispose of pretty easily. Easier than I thought going into this small encounter. We fumble the remote claw kill, but get an easy ledge takedown, followed by the 3 most lackluster kills in the series, as we just hit these guys back down the ladder they climbed up. It's a disappointing display, but we can't complain as we had another 5 kills to the count. Once we get onto the bridge to fight Garfield, we take 4 thugs down with the shot gloves in the first group of thugs who come down after us. But that's not where we end, because my count, in this second phase, we get 5 kills before we fight Garfield. We make short work of him after we cover him in the globular projectile for non-lethal restraint, and throw sharp metal manarangs at him, until eventually knocking him out for later killing. Man has to do this really quickly because Bone is en route to Man's house. Oh, he's already there. By the time we get back, Bone has left and made a mess of the place, burying Fred in rubble. Rubble we pull him out of before realising he's dead. Unfortunately, we quite like Fred, so try and revive him, but after a few tries we just decide to crack his sternum and holy shit it woke him up. I mean, I hope he didn't hear all that about cracking his sternum and killing him. Anyway, Man gets a report that Blackgate Prison, the prison we started the night off in, is under attack again. Riots have broken out again, and we need to stop them, and all jokes aside, this is the most rousing scene in the Arkham games. The music, the speech from Alfred, the radio reports, the self-doubt from Bruce, this scene is fucking cinema. I love it. Anyway, we head to Blackgate because we need to stop Jonker and Bone from stealing all of our kills. We tell Fred to not get killed again, jump in the man wing and head to the prison. Upon arriving, we find some victims who are about to meet the hammers of electrified justice as we accidentally get a few kills due to my skill issue, as this thug throws an explosive canister at us, but we just headbutt it like Drew McIntyre's Glasgow Kiss, and we get 3 kills because of it. The fight continues, and we get another 2 kills with the shot gloves, before telling the security guard he's a bitch and heading into Blackgate. Our next group of kills come as we save a few hostages from 10 armed guards, and in true murderous man fashion, we begin taking names. The 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th kills come with the ever-lethal Manclaw, and yeah, we cleared the whole room with it. There's no other method here, the Manclaw wins again, lol. After that one-note room-clearing display, we manage to make our way into the prison and find a group of escaped thugs doing escaped thug activities, and we eliminate 5 of them using the trusty shot gloves. They're definitely proving themselves as handy little weapons. Get it? Handy little weapons, because they're on his hands. Okay, you can unsubscribe now. Thanks for watching. For those of you who enjoyed that sad little joke, we continue to get more kills, but not before meeting Dickstroke doing some push-ups. I hope they make a sequel where you get to play as him, maybe even a Suicide Squad game. Maybe it could be cool to have him as a main character, and you could keep the free-flow combat and Arkham stealth, but make it more lethal and craft a really cool storyline about the squad having to fight off an otherworldly threat alongside other squads of heroes, maybe alongside the Justice League. That could be cool. Shame it'll never fucking happen. Next up comes a room of thugs and a room where my count will definitely not be right, but let's give it a go. I think we got 11 kills here, a few with the gloves and at least 1 by way of brute. This was all a bit hectic, but that's my final count. I fumbled so hard during this section and could have easily gotten 15 kills if I'd not been playing Arkham Origins for 6 straight hours at this point on the 2nd hottest day of the year in the UK. The things I do for you guys, I could have been outside with my friends and who am I kidding, I don't have any friends, I'm a YouTuber in England. But anyway, 11 kills is not to be sniffed at, perhaps looked at sideways but not sniffed at. More enemies await us, and this time we kill 5 of them. Again, there's definitely room for more here, but 5 is a pretty decent number. It's hard with the shot gloves, because you have to strike the balance between charging them up and leaving enough enemies to use them on. I don't know where that balance is, but it's there for people much smarter than me to find. Finally though, we meet Jonkler, who tries to add more kills to his own count, but thankfully we stop him, much to the dismay of Bone, who comes down to tell us that someone will die, either himself, us, or Jonkler, who's now put his life in our murderous hands. It would be perfect if we could just kill them both, but if you've seen the other parts of this series, you'll know that clearly doesn't happen. Although, given Bone's brain-dead approach to things later in the entries, it's safe to assume we gave him a fate worse than death anyway. Well, he did, but that's not the point. When we finally get to fight Bone, he begins his prone bone move on us again, but we move out of the way, giving us another 4 kills to add to the count. It's worth mentioning 2 of these kills came from Bone throwing bodies around like darts. In the second phase of the fight, Bone actually stops us from getting a kill, but also doesn't get any himself. I couldn't believe this. I was genuinely convinced this was our best chance to just stat pad some kills, but hey, you can't win them all. I do want it known that man does temporarily put Bone in a state of death, and he nearly doesn't revive him in time, so we might just add him to the count for the sake of rage baiting some people into telling me how wrong I am and how I know nothing about these games. So, Bone gets added to the count. But only for a few seconds, because he wakes up, injects himself with what I can only assume is Mango Loco Monster, because he gets a sudden burst of energy. Energy we sap from him as soon as we pump 200,000 volts into his body all at once, quote unquote, knocking him out. And I swear to God if he wasn't in any of the other Arkham games I'd have added him to the count here, because man makes Bone's body limp in a pretty brutal way here. Man knows there's only one man left we need to deal with. The Jonkler. We head to find Jonkler, but are met by Chiller Croc, and this cheeky motherfucker shoots my goat. I'd have gladly taken the bullet for my glorious king here, but Jimmy G didn't know that. I would have, again cementing the fact that he doesn't know shit about us yet. Man and Jimmy G have to run duos together to protect the Warden from an onslaught of escaped prisoners, but for some reason known only to the almighty and Vincent K. McMahon, we can't use the shot gloves here. This might be one of Origin's funny little glitches, but to say I was fuming would be an understatement, because why can't use the shot gloves in this one specific combat section? We leave Jimmy and the Warden to their business, and finally come face to face with Jonkler. Jonkler tells us, as he's being beaten to death, that he's sick and tired of us walking around thinking we're the best killer. He continues to try and stab us, while saying he will take the crown of King of the Killers, and the only way to beat him is to kill him. Man doesn't though, knowing the only way to get better is through competition. Because Man isn't only a killer, he's smart. He could kill him now, but no, God almighty, no. It'd be too damned easy. All Man wanted to do was kill him. A minute didn't go by tonight that he didn't think about subjecting him to every horrendous torture he's dealt out to victims who should have been his, and then end him. But if he allowed himself to go down that path, he'll never come back. He'll never know what could have been. That brings our story to an end. Now we know how our favourite characters came to be. Man, Jimmy G, who does end up liking Batman quite a bit, Jonkler, Killer Croc, and of course the Man Claw. The night was tough, the kills were plenty, and the game was longer than I remembered. But how many kills did we actually come out with this time? Well, by my count, in Man's second Christmas in charge of Gotham's waste disposal, he racked up an impressive 230 kills. Not bad, not as many as I'd have expected, but as always there is room to improve on this run. So again, as always, I challenge you to do the same run and see if you can improve Man's score. I think with better management of the shot gloves and being less of a bozo, you could easily push this run higher, so give it a go. Thank you so much for joining me through Manham Origins. Subscribe, like, and I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.